In this episode of Emerging with Grace, we are introduced to Virginia DeLuca, an award-winning author and a psychotherapist. She has been in the Boston Globe, the Huntington Post, and several other magazines, as well as news articles. She is intelligent and witty and very sharp. Her book that I read is called If You Must Leave, I Hope You Have Triplets. And it was a riveting up and down cycle of emotions during the whole book. So I hope you enjoy my next guest, Virginia DeLuca. Welcome to Emerging with Grace. I'm loving having you here, and I'm glad that you chose this podcast to listen to. Please like, subscribe, and share so that more people can get to know how to emerge with grace. Thank you.
This is the prologue. Sexy. Whenever I think of Perry and how we were, I think sexy. The thought makes me smile, a buoyant, inner smile, almost smug. Falling in love at 47 and marrying at 52 is both phenomenal and frightening. But then again, falling in love is always phenomenal and frightening. However, in your 50s, the relationship comes with an end date built in. Oh, I know that some people claim that 50 is the new 30 and all of that. But for me, when Perry and I married, I was keenly aware that one of us would have to usher the other out. Maybe not for another 30 years or so, knock on wood, but Perry's parents both died in their early 60s. I'd buried many loved ones already. I just wanted it to be Perry ushering me out. I should have remembered, be careful what you wish for.
Thank you. I love this book. I can't tell you enough. I love this book. I first read about you in was it the New York Times or the Huffington Post? One of those caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm not one for tidbits of information. So I read it and I said, oh my gosh, I have to have her on the show. That's before I read the book. And then once you agreed to be on the show, I got the book and I went on vacation and I was reading it every night. It kept me glued. So I really am appreciative of your memoirs. Why did you think about writing them?
Well, this came from a very close friend. So
Randy?
Yes, Randy.
I love Randy.
So, yeah. So when Perry and I left, when he decided to leave very abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent a lot of time talking to Randy and to other friends, but to Randy, and I was like, oh my goodness, why did he leave? What's happening? What's going on? What's the story behind the story? I don't understand. It was a lot of those kind of questions when you have an abrupt shift in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the questions. So, and we would talk about this endlessly because one of the things I think that happens with trauma, and it was a trauma kind, maybe a trauma with a small t, but it was, is you talk about it over and over and over again. And Randy was a friend who was patient enough to listen all the time. And at one point she said, why don't you write a memoir? She and I both had written together. She's a writer. And I had kept an enormous amount of journals during this leave taking.
Mm-hmm.
So when he left, I opened up a journal on my computer and I started, Perry leaving journal because I couldn't make any sense of it. So I had all this material, all the emails, all the texts, all the transcribed conversations as much as I could remember.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, okay, let's figure out. So when I retired I worked as a therapist in agency. And when I left the agencies, I joined a class about, well, how do you turn this kind of mess of a journal into a memoir? And
Okay.
that's how it happened.
Are you still a therapist?
I am still a therapist. I have a very small private practice at this point.
Okay. Okay. Are you still living in the same cul-de-sac as your son?
Yes.
I thought that was wonderful to have a 3-year-old cross the street to come visit. I would
Yeah.
love for my grandchildren to be able to just come across the street and visit.
It's really, I mean, it's not something that I had ever imagined being, I expected sort of, kids grow and they move away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to have that yeah. Now that 3-year-old is now 14.
I was going to say,
And
it's been a
he's
while.
and he kind of wanders in still the same way, have to fix the printer, need to do this, do you have anything to eat? No, no.
That's the important part, the
Yeah,
eating.
that's right.
I love it. I love it. Actually, one of my favorite parts in your book was when you were playing house, I think, or dolls with your granddaughter, and you thought, I can't get up off the floor if I get down there. And I've been there. And I said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your novel is so real, so realistic. You're right. There are so many women when they go through a breakup who are trying to figure out the whys. In actuality, I think we become detectives of our own little mystery novels and
Hmm.
try to put in the answers of each of the whys, what, where, how did this happen without me understanding that it was happening? Where were the flags? When you started putting together the pieces, did you feel at any time that you were going down like Alice in Wonderland's tunnel into the great deep beyond?
Well, yes, because so much. So he really had a difficult time when so he basically said, I want to leave in order to have babies. So
Mm-hmm.
I need to find another relationship because I was 60, I couldn't have babies anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
he needed to find, so that was the first kind of like, so he's not talking like he has somebody. He's saying that he wants, and he kind of listed out people that might have been appropriate for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded so weird to me in the sense, you know, how is it possible that he absolutely was sure that he told me he hadn't, wasn't involved with anybody else. So that just sort of found like, well, maybe he's having like some weird kind of crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's having a mental health crisis. Maybe, is this the kind of thing where you just reject somebody because they're doing that?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a hard time with that. And also that started, and then he would give little dribbles of information. Well, he had been on a trip. When he was on that trip, he met somebody. And then I said, well, and we were attracted and we kissed. And I'm thinking, really? In the airport, you kissed and now you're leaving 14 years? That's weird.
Right, right.
So
I loved your analogy. I loved all your analogies. They were really good. But when you thought, he must have dementia.
mhm.
I thought, well, I think that's only something either a therapist would think or somebody who had parents who had dementia. And I was like, well, that's a nice avenue. We can travel down this road.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, yes.
but it turns out he didn't have dementia, and it turns out that you were actually a very good perception of character. Did you ever, in any shape, fashion, or form, beat yourself up?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think this happens so much for people. You think you love somebody, you do love somebody. You
Mm-hmm.
think you know the person that you love. You think you're having this very honest relationship, and then suddenly it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, how, you know, where is the ground on my for my feet? It's like, oh, I thought I understood the world a little bit. Don't really believe I understand completely, but I definitely, and I really didn't. And I really didn't know how sad he was or how much he wanted to have babies or how sad he was that he hadn't, because he had never had children before. So I
Mm-hmm.
had 3 sons, but he didn't have any. I didn't, I had no idea.
Well, I remember you telling us in the book how wonderful your relationship was at 47. At
Mhm.
47, he didn't think I may want kids of my own.
No, we actually had talked a little bit about it, sort of, because I knew he didn't have kids, so I asked him a little, so it's
Mhm.
this at the very, very beginning. He said, "No, I never wanted to have kids." He said he would be way too nervous to have children.
Hmm.
He was a little anxious and worrying
I
about
noticed that
things.
as we kept going through. So,
Um He is a teacher, and he was a teacher of, English speakers with second languages,
mhm.
English as a second language. And so he had a lot of kids, and he was very invested in the kids, and they're usually junior high or high school.
Mhm.
He got involved with their families, and he basically talked about that as his family, as his children.
Okay.
So I sort of said, "Oh, okay. I believe that."
Did that make you think he might not be a family person?
Not really, he was pretty invested in his nieces and
His
nephews,
sister's children.
his sister's kids. He had a few, he was pretty he was the only child. He was the oldest child. So
Mhm.
he had, a lot of, I think he had a lot of caretaking responsibilities as he was growing up.
That's right, he
Um,
took care of his mom, correct?
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the things that threw a red flag for me is, and this happens with anxious people, so it may not be a red flag, but when you would have the family gatherings, they sound so much like my family gatherings at my with my kids and the grandkids, and everybody's happy and loving it, and he needed to go off on his own, take some breathing space. Did you consider that a red flag, or you were just considerate of his anxiety?
Yeah, I didn't. I think sometimes I was a little disappointed, like, I really
Mm.
wanted him to sorta join right in,
Right.
and tolerate all the chaos, and I tended to get a lot of pleasure out of all that chaos,
Mm.
and he did not, so partly I was also sort of feeling like, "Oh, people are very different." And I really like these parts of him,
Mhm.
really a lot. I really loved him.
Mhm.
And yeah, this part of him isn't my favorite,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel like it was something that I would want to sort of say, "Oh, I'm going to toss him away." It felt to me like a very minor issue.
You take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
Okay. The name of this show is Brilliant, Beautiful, and Badass.
Mhm.
Do you want to tell everybody where I got that from?
Well, when he left, I was right at the point where I was publishing my very first novel. I
Mhm.
had worked a long time on that novel, sort of the way that people do when there's lots of things going on in a family and work. The writing was sort of in the corners of my life. But I finally got it together and
Mhm.
I finished the novel and it was being published and there was going to be a launch. So there would be the publisher was going to have a party
Mhm.
and everybody was going to come. And he left maybe 6 weeks before that. So I had to figure out, I couldn't really cancel the party. I
Mhm.
didn't really want to have a party. I really felt totally that this was completely irrelevant in my life at this point. But I had very close friends, including Randy, who basically said, yeah, you got to go, you got to do this. And so went off to find things like I wanted to get my hair cut and I wanted new glasses.
Mhm.
And I went there and at the glassing shop, everybody was showing me very brown, very boring glasses.
Mhm.
And I basically said something like, my husband just left. I was very open about it. My husband just left. He wants to have babies, 60 years old, and I need badass glasses. So,
Yeah, I love the little 20-year-old that said, "I got you."
yeah. And then she just ran right over and picked him out. It was great. It was really wonderful.
Yeah. Sometimes I think people look at the outside package and think
Mhm.
they understand you better than what's going on the inside package.
Mhm.
And you saying, "This is what's happening, and I don't want to feel like this. The browns and the blacks are very dull. Give me something bright and vibrant." And I would think that the 20-year-old kind of understood, like, oh, we need those glasses that say, oh, we're not going to be depressed about this.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that was your turnaround where I start noticing a difference in the story.
Mhm.
So, how do you feel about your middle area where you started saying, it really doesn't care about the whys. It's more about who I am and what I'm going to do.
Well, one of the things that I have learned over many, many years of, varying, doing therapy and grief itself is that it never goes in a straight line.
No.
It always, I think about it as a spiral.
Mm-hmm.
So there were times when I would say, I don't care about any of this. I'm gonna make a life and it's, that's it. And I'm fine and I'm in good shape and, life is good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would completely go backwards and I would go into like, but why? And then I would call him up on but why? Why did you want to do, and then we'd start all over again. So it definitely went in a spiral. I think writing the memoir,
Mm-hmm.
actually, that was the end of it in a certain sense. It was like I really came to understand that what I had to embrace
Mm-hmm.
completely is not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know
Yeah. And as a
exactly.
therapist, have you ever had to try to get somebody to that point?
Yes, I think actually we do need to do that as a therapist often.
But you
Okay.
can see the end as a therapist.
Hmm.
You can't see the end when you're in it and all the flavors are swirling around you. I say flavors because I remember a client telling me it's like you're in the juice and you don't know what flavor it is. So
That's great. Yeah,
I
that's
thought,
great.
oh, yes, that's perfect. So
That
um,
is perfect. Yeah.
one of the things that happens when you go through a breakup is friends and family choose sides.
Mhm.
There was a point in the story where your son said, if you want to go back to him, I'm here for you. If you
Mhm.
want to go burn down his house, I'm here for you. That wasn't exactly what he said, but I thought that was very mature and very loving to just, I'm going to support you either way you go.
Right.
How did your other sons take it?
They were very, that they didn't say it quite so clearly, but very, people were shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought Perry was really an idiot, basically,
Midlife crisis.
Right. But they were very, but they knew how much I cared for him. And so if he had decided to come back, and a lot of people said that a lot. Oh, he's going to come back. So he left in May. People would give predictions. He'll be back by the fall. He'll be back by, that kind of thing.
You know what? I did the same thing. When you first started the story, I was like, oh, yeah, he's going to figure it out. He really messed up here. But I really love the way the story turned out, better than any other love you could have ever had. You keep the reader guessing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You do not give any, because I'm like, okay, he called again. Oh, here we go. And then, like you said, the spiral, why are you calling? Why do you keep resurrecting these feelings? I thought he was really sadistic. I was with Randy, like, I thought he was being really sadistic. And the way you paint him, because I don't know him, the way you paint him seems to be more of a clueless. This is my best friend, and I want to tell her, but I'm clueless as to what I'm doing to her in the process.
Yeah, I do feel he was clueless. When I think now, I think he was exceptionally self-centered.
Mm-hmm.
He really was thinking or feeling or, acting with only his feelings in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that was a hard thing to, now he couldn't have just developed that. So he must have been like that all along to some extent, right?
Yeah.
He wouldn't have.
But in 14 years, you weren't able to see that. He seemed really loving.
So I think, if I were to sort of really try to analyze that out now, is to sort of say, well,
hindsight,
we didn't have a lot of conflict. We were a couple who kind of smoothed the edges. What do you want to do? Oh, I'll do this. Oh, okay, I'll do this. Oh, okay, you can do. And we were able to do that for a long time. As soon as it came into sort of a conflict, which is he really wanted to do something obviously
different,
then I didn't have a lot of evidence of how he did that kind of thing.
Right.
So, even I think about this. So we had gone traveling for one of the first times ever to Europe. Neither one of us had spent a lot of time doing that. And he must not have wanted to go. But he went. And because it was very soon after that he, was months, then he said, okay, I'm done. I want to. So my feeling is I probably was very excited. Let's go. We're going to go. It's his 60th birthday. We're going to go. Oh, we can do it this way. Oh, we can do it that way. I was probably sort of rolling a little, and he kind of went along with that.
Okay.
So
I didn't look at it like that, but of course, I'm reading your memoir, not his.
That's right. All different stories.
Right. His, hers, theirs. There was another point in the story when you were staying it's after you moved out the house and you were going back. I want to say, was it a bed and breakfast?
Yes.
And when you were staying at the bed and breakfast, you had some very great insight. One of the things that you were talking about at the bed and breakfast was improving you, not for marriage, not for Perry, if he came back fine, but you were thinking about improving you. What's that look like at 61?
Yeah. We do have this fantasy that we'll get older and better and older and better, and then we'll be resolved. And that was a very important thing to learn, that I had a lot of developing to still go through.
Mhm.
And that maybe there isn't a rival. It's not like, we kind of have this phase, well, we'll go, we'll do things, we'll blah, 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 and we'll get to a point where we feel whatever your goal is,
Right.
peace, joy, loving, whatever that is will arrive.
Right.
And I realized, oh, maybe we just don't. We're just always in the middle.
Of evolving.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned in the beginning, in reading your prologue, that you have helped several people, or you have been there for several people. I want to start with your brother, the first one that passed.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get his kids' permission or his wife permission to out his story in your book?
Mm-hmm. So this is my brother who got very, very ill. He had young kids. They were in their early teens,
Mhm.
and and a wife, and he contracted AIDS
Mhm.
at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic.
Right.
So it was a long time that he was very ill before he was diagnosed.
Because they had no clue what to look for.
What to look for, and he didn't fit any of what they had determined
The
was
categories were.
the categories.
Mhm.
And so, and then they finally had a test, and then his test came out. And I wrote a lot about that. I was very close with him.
He
He
taught
was
you how to
9.
dance.
Yes. He's 9 years, he was 9 years older than I was. So
Mhm.
I looked up to him tremendously, and he was wonderful. And we became very close as adults also because we had kids around the same age.
Okay.
So the kids were the same age. And so I wrote a lot about it because it was just tragic to me that
Mhm.
I was going to lose my brother
Right.
and that whole family. Yeah.
Right.
So
He was after your mother, right?
yeah. So my mother had died, and then he became sick probably around the time that we were cleaning at her home.
Okay.
And then we began to know that he was what the diagnosis was.
Okay. Then you spoke about your father, and this really threw me for a loop. Um, the secretary losing her son, and the friend you met losing his brother, and you were like, that's odd. You already being detective at 13. How did that affect you when you actually figured it all out?
Well, it's it took a long time, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Well,
I
you weren't
said
looking, you know,
it wasn't really, I kind
you're
of
daddy's girl. He's perfect.
that's right. And it all kind of, and then suddenly so it was very disturbing when he decided to leave my mother. That was 32 years of marriage.
Mm,
And he fell in love with somebody else. And then it became clear, oh, he had been with that person a very long time.
right.
Oh, that woman's son is exactly my age.
Hmm.
And began to put those things together, sort of later and later in time.
Right.
And so really it was not something that I sort of all put together when he was still alive.
Right.
It wasn't like I could say to him, oh, so by the way, did you, So again, it was sort of not knowing, being able to really not, to tolerate not knowing and still loving him.
Right. And
not yeah.
your oldest brother,
Mm-hmm.
he was one that I really felt, I want to say I had a tinge of sympathy for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we always, my condolences when somebody goes, but he put you in a situation and said, hey, you did this for mom and do this for me. And I thought, that's so unfair, but you handled it like a champ.
Yeah. He also was a very favorite person. And so, and he kind of had left because he became an alcoholic, and he had left before he left.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was very hard for him when my brother died, because it was his baby brother. And I think he really had a very, very hard time.
So I want to look back at some things. You're a therapist, so you understand the science of feelings. Yeah. You've probably seen some divorces play out. You are the youngest sister of 2 older brothers, and you are the mother of 3 boys. So you kind of had a lot of insight into men.
Yeah, it was very boy-centered.
Yeah. So some people would say that because of that, you had the mindset of not a man, but, you have masculine tendencies to where you could say, you know what, have triplets, go to hell. But do you liken your strength that you were able to finally muster up and love Virginia to your occupation, your growing up with boys, your having boys? Do you liken that to not totally being a feminine thought, or do you think that's a thought that females put away and try not to tap into?
So this might be a very complicated answer, so you can
I'm
interrupt me
listening.
when I get going. So it was a very male-centered situation, right? I had 3 male figures, so it was 2 older brothers. I had a ton of male cousins. The extended family was mostly around my father because my mother had no siblings, and her parents had died a while ago.
Okay.
So it was all around this Italian Sicilian family, which is very stereotypically male dominant. And so I would say it was about the women's movement that for me, that began that became, sort of when I was 18, 19, 17 even. And I had friends whose older sisters were involved. I began to think, oh, women have value. Oh, women have a voice. Oh, I can make noise. And that, I think, really was what saved me in many, many ways. It was like, oh, I can earn money. I'm very smart. I can talk about being smart.
Brilliant, even.
And but I mean, it's really, I can get loud if I need to.
And you did.
And I also, what I had a lot of praise for was being a caretaker. I was the younger daughter. I really was supposed to be taking care of everybody. So, I had
Is
to
that
go back
in a
and forth with
Sicilian
it.
family, or is it just built like that for women?
I think it's partly the era. It was the 1950s. That was all of that I grew up in. It's partly Sicilian.
Who you are today.
Yeah. And I have to say that a lot of it had to do with writing it out. I do a lot of journaling. It's like I feel sad. I feel this. I feel that. I don't understand what's happening. But then I write it out. And that, I think, has been amazing for me personally. A lot of people can't do, don't like to write, but I just would really but it helped solidify the fact, like, I do not want to be, an alcoholic. I do not want to give up my life and sort of crawl into a hole because I got rejected. I have a lot to offer.
You do.
And I want to be there. And I don't always feel good. And sometimes I whine. And there's a wonderful memoirist called Abigail Thomas who basically says, if you want to whine, whine. Go ahead, whine. Just don't get carried away and tell everybody.
Don't sit there in it.
Yeah, you don't have to. But I think, and I think there are parts of ourselves that we hold with us as a very young, all our different ages are there.
Yes.
So sometimes we feel very sorry for ourselves. And that's okay for a little.
Yes.
And
then you pull up your big girl panties and you keep it moving.
Yeah, if you can, yeah.
What would you offer to a young girl who thought she found love and it didn't work out at this stage of your life? I always say it is best to learn at the knee, which is I'd rather learn from somebody else's experience than to experience the fire on my own.
The thing about this, I think, is falling in love with somebody with anybody, right? Is such an experience. It's very hard to define. Yeah. It's very hard to describe. It's very powerful. And then when it ends, then it is devastating. I think what I would want people to know is, and you're going to be okay. It will be devastating. It will feel terrible, and you will be okay. And you will love again.
Yes.
And love doesn't necessarily mean it has to be
the typical
one person.
Fairy tale.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I loved about your story. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was a beautiful ending.
Thank you. Thank you. And that feels very important to me. I feel surrounded by love and not always pleasant. People are very complicated and sometimes annoying. So,
yes. Oh, I really enjoyed talking to you. I really enjoyed reading your book. I'm so glad that you are here with us, imparting your knowledge. Do you have another book coming out? Did I read that?
No, I mean, I'm not really. I kind of think about, I would love to write about aging and what it's like to be in our 70s. We have a thought about what it means. But between being old, 73 is old, I realize, but it's not necessarily a decline.
Correct.
If we're lucky, right? So there might be that window in between. Anyway, I've been sort of playing around with that.
Okay. And what was your first book?
It was a novel, As If Women Mattered.
Okay.
So,
and I know I'm going to put your website in the link, but is there any other, are you on social media or anything?
I am. I'm really not good at this at all.
That's why you got 14-year-old grandchildren.
I did join, but they're not. I did join Instagram when the book first came out, but I really don't quite understand it.
It's just pictures.
So So I don't really have I'm on Facebook, and there's, Virginia DeLuca author is on the Facebook thing, but I'm not busy with that.
That's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me and being so patient with this.
It comes with the territory.